What's up guys, Infernape here. I'm sorry for the change of scenery. I'm actually up in my bedroom for a change because my dad is currently using the downstairs bit because he's working from home, so I thought I'd film up here. If you like the change of scenery, maybe I'll film up here more often. Today I'm going to be talking about a person in Pokemon that gives a bit of a love-hate relationship, and that is the Pokemon master himself, Ash Ketchum, even though he's really nowhere near being a Pokemon master yet. Yesterday I was actually watching this video by Mr. Cumbrion, and one comment in the comment section said that he should make his own opinion on Ash's Pokemon from worst to best. So I thought I'd try my hand at it. I've gone through all of Ash's Pokemon that he's caught, and I've also went through all of the important battles they've been through, all the wins, all the losses, and now I'm going to put them all in a massive list. So I hope you get comfy because this is going to be a long one. I thought I would also say that I'm not going to include Pokemon that Ash has only had for like one episode. So I'm not going to include his Raticate that he got from the trade. I'm also not going to include Haunter because he didn't officially catch it. And I'm not going to count in Larvitar either. But I am going to include like Pokemon and he gave away, mainly his Apom. And I'm also going to include his new Pokemon that he got in Alola, like his Lycanroc, Toricact and Rowlet. Last thing I want to say before we get started, all of these are just my own opinion. You're free to have your own. Like, let me know down in the comments what you think is Ash's best Pokemon. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, we have 48 slots. And in last place, we have Pidgeotto. Now, in my own opinion, I've got to say, Ash's Pidgeotto's got to be the worst Pokemon that he has ever owned. Like, it didn't even win a match against Team Rocket. Not only that, it's never won a Pokemon match whatsoever. One would think that since Pidgeotto was the second Pokemon that Ash had ever caught, it would probably be at extremely high level. But no, it didn't win a single Pokemon battle, not one gym battle, not one trainer battle, I don't think. It's just so annoying that Pidgeotto is so incredibly weak. Like, the only thing that I think that it could actually count for is when it used a double edge on a freaking Rhydon, which helps him and win in the Earth Badge. But that's not really helpful since Pikachu delivered the final blow. And when after the Indigo League was all said and done, and he actually came across the Spearow, which evolved into Fearow, which Ash tried to capture through the rock at its head. Yeah, and it held a grudge against him, and when Pidgeotto got beaten by that Fearow, it decided to evolve into a Pidgeot, which makes no sense at all, because it never won a single Pokemon battle in its life. And not only that, after it evolved and became godlike, Ash decided to release his Pidgeot and said he would come back for it after it delivered the GS Ball and come back to Palatine. But that was absolute BS. But still, there are so many other better Pokemon than Pidgeot, which I'm going to get into. The next entry in the list is another Pokemon that hasn't won a Pokemon battle, I don't think, and that is Ash's Poipole. Now, Poipole is quite an interesting Pokemon. I think it was just there for comic relief, but I really love Poipole and Naganadel, but I don't get why Ash didn't keep it on the team. After the whole incident with Lucamine was all said and done, Poipole managed to find its way through his home and wound up in Alola, and it got attracted by Pikachu's Thunderbolt, and it took a while for Ash to actually notice Poipole, but after a while he notices it, captures it, and only keeps it just so they could return it back to its homeworld, which I think is a bit sad, because I would have loved to see what would do if Ash actually kept his Poipole and evolved it into Naganadel. Like I said a little while ago, I haven't seen it in a Pokemon battle, so I don't think it ever participated in a single Pokemon battle, so that's why it's this low at the list, but I still really love Poipole. It took me a little while, but I actually found a shiny Poipole, evolved it into Naganadel, so that proves how much I love Poipole. The next Pokemon entry on the list is in my own opinion, a Pokemon that I don't know anybody that hates it, and that's Lapras. Now, Lapras has quite an interesting story. Like, Ash first encountered a Lapras when he was travelling through the Orange Islands. These groups of bullies were just hitting it with wooden sticks and torturing it, just because it wound up on the beach and got lost and separated from its group. After it was healed up in the Pokemon Center, it took a little while for Lapras to actually trust anybody, but eventually it opened its heart to Ash, and it became his Pokemon. Even though it didn't participate in a Pokemon battle, I mean, not an official battle, I guess you could count out the one with Drake and the Orange League champion, but he didn't beat his Gengar, it only tied with it, so, in my opinion, doesn't count. In the end, they eventually find Lapras's group, and they gave him back to his group so he could grow up with his mother and family and all that. I definitely think that was the right thing to do, but I definitely would have... I actually like to see what would happen if Ash actually kept Lapras and kept it on his party. I'm sure it would be a very powerful asset to the team, but, you know, a baby Lapras couldn't live without his mother. The next entry on the list is, my own opinion, the worst regional bird in all of existence and the worst regional bird that Ash has ever captured, and that is his bloody Unpheasant. Oh boy, do I hate this Unpheasant. Let me break it down a little bit. Ash had just started travelling in the Unova region and was struggling to capture Pokemon like he was an absolute noob. Eventually, he caught this stray P-Dove and tries to capture it. He does, but he only won like 2 battles in its life, and that was only from help, and that was the battle against Skylar in the 6th gym. Like, he took down a Swoobat, but after battling Krokorok, and it also took down Swanna, but Swanna had already been a tough battle with Pikachu. But to me, that doesn't really count, and has so many losses in its belt, especially against Cameron's Riolu. Yes, you heard me right, a freaking Riolu. A pre-evolution of Lucario, who's weak as hell. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely hate Unpheasant. Not just in the anime, but in the games as well. Unpheasant has got to be the worst regional bird out of every single one of them. It has a poor design. I do not understand why they gave it the like gender split of male and female. I guess it was a clever idea, but I think they made the designs very, very poor. The next entry on the list is actually one of my favourite Pokemon in X and Y, and that is Noivern. I really, really love Noivern, but Ash's Noivern has got to be one of the weakest Pokemon I've seen in my life. Ash's Noivern was first found as a Noibat egg, abandoned by its mother or just got lost as an egg. And Noibat was okay, but it was just such a crybaby. Literally, when it cried, it just used Supersonic all the time and just literally killed everybody's ears. It didn't get that much useful in battle either. Like, it learned Tackle somehow, but we didn't see how it learned Tackle. But that was pretty much useless, and it's just so useless. Like, it's got so many losses, and I think it's only got like 2 wins. Maybe 1. Like, I know it won against not Cameron, Sawyer's Dubblade, and it also got the win against Clement's Bunnelby, but that was in the Pokemon movie, so I don't think that counts. I just wish that Ash actually made his Noivern a bit stronger. Like, literally, it's got to be one of the weakest Pokemon I've seen in my life. It was the weakest Pokemon in an Ash's Arsenal in the XY series. And I definitely don't get why it actually had 3 flying types and 2 dragon types. It just made no sense whatsoever. And I definitely think that he basically ruins the name Noivern. Okay, time for me to talk some crap about some more Gen 5 Pokemon. And that is Ash's Palpitoad. Oh my god, what was he thinking when he caught this bloody Palpitoad? Like, he already had a water type with Oshawott, and later on he caught a Crocorock, which later evolved into Crocodile. I do not understand why he had to capture this stupid toad. Not only was Palpitoad a pointless Pokemon, it was a pointless capture as well. Like, it barely won a fair share of battles. Like, it won a couple in some sort of competition that was hosted by the Pokemon training company in that region. Can't remember what it was called, and it also won like one gym battle. Well, I only defeated like one Pokemon in a gym battle, which was Elisa's Zebstrika, and tied against Stefan's Zebstrika. It's just so stupid, annoying, and I hate Ash's Palpitoad with a passion. Speaking of crappy Pokemon in Gen 5, here's another one. It's Ash's Snivy! I do not like the Snivy line, as you may already know, but I will admit that Ash's Snivy's characteristics, its personality, it was quite funny to watch. Ash's Snivy actually left its original trainer because he felt like it was a bit of a crappy trainer, and all of its moves were pretty well received, mainly Leaf Blade and Leaf Storm. Like, Vine Whip's okay, but Attract, meh. And it's won a couple battles, like Clay's Palpitoad, and it also took out George's Pawniard, but it's also racked up quite a lot of losses. The main losses I can think of at the top of my head is Elisa's Emolga, Clay's Excadrill, and to top it off, Cameron's Lucario. Now, I will admit that it was a bit of a disadvantage because all of its moves did not do anything, but Ash could have used Attract. So stupid, so annoying, and I really don't get the point of Ash not evolving any of his starter Pokemon apart from Pignite. But I still think that Snivy should have been a bit higher on the list, but it's so weak, so stupid, and yeah, it's really trash. Next on the list is actually one of my favourite Pokemon from the Gen 3 anime, which was Ash's Torkoal. Now, back in the day, I really liked Torkoal. Like, Ash's Torkoal was really cool. Like, it was very funny, had quite a decent personality, and it's racked up a couple of wins when it really counted, but it's had quite a lot of losses in its experience too. Like, its win rate is like 22, 24. Like, there's a little poster on Google that actually has all of Ash's Pokemon win-loss percentages, so after this video, go check it out. Ash originally found Torkoal in the Valley of Steel, where somehow it got lost and Steel types were attacking it like crazy, and it managed to get its own back by defeating the head honcho, which was Steelix, and Ash caught it, but it's racked up a lot of losses, mainly against some What's-His Main Trick, a Norman's Vigoroth, and quite a lot of losses in the Pokemon League as well. Like, I did get a couple wins in the Pokemon League as well, but the numbers don't lie, and I just think Torkoal is a really weak Pokemon, even though its moveset is quite OP. Next entry on the list is actually the first Pokemon that Ash has ever captured. You know what I'm talking about. It's his Butterfree. Now, I really like Butterfree, but come on, it's a useless Pokemon. Like, anybody knows it. Like, Ash's Butterfree was kind of cool, but he just had so many better Pokemon he went through in his journey. Butterfree, I don't think actually got very many wins, so that's why it's quite low on the list. I don't actually know like any Pokemon battle it's actually won, but I really liked Ash's Butterfree for what it was, so that's why I decided to put it this entry on the list. So I definitely think Butterfree was quite cool. It was a bit weird that Ash released his Butterfree just so he could fall in love and make babies and all that jazz. But yeah, I just think that it was wasted potential. Next up, we actually have a Pokemon that he made easy to catch, but when you play through the game, it's nearly impossible to capture one. And it's really hard to capture this specific Pokemon when you either played the original Red, Blue, and Yellow, or when you decided to play Fire Red and Leaf Green remakes. You know what I'm talking about. It's his goddamn Tauros. Now, I will admit that Tauros has racked up quite a lot of wins in its time with Ash, but I'm pretty sure he only uses one of them, and I do not get the point of him capturing a whole squad of Tauros. Like, he's got enough for his whole a whole miniature stampede. The main win ends that Tauros has had in its time is probably when it beat a couple of Drake's Pokemon in the Orange Islands, and it also managed to win against this Tauros in a Tauros match when this Tauros had a 10-streak win. But Tauros had its butt whipped with very easily, might I add, and yeah, it's just got so many losses, like, most notably against Gary's Nidoqueen with a one-shot Hyper Beam, and it also lost against Annabelle's Alakazam and Metagross in the rematch with very, very little effort. If I could change anything about the Pokemon anime, I would have changed that Ash capturing 30 Tauros and only caught one, because then it would make a whole lot more sense, because I'm pretty sure he only uses one of the Tauros anyway. Next entry on the list is actually the one of the cutest Pokemon on in Ash's squad, and it's actually one of my mum's favourite Pokemon as well. It's Ash's Oshawott. Now, I will admit Oshawott's got its pros, but it's got quite a lot of cons. Now, the main victories it's got in Ash's journey through the Unova League is probably when it beated Silent. It took down Clay's Krokorok and a couple other wins that I can't really remember at the moment. But it's also had its fair share of losses. It's just got so many losses under its belt, and I don't understand why it didn't evolve. But now that I think about it, Ash has been quite famous for not evolving his Pokemon to make them stronger. Like, look at all of his Pokemon, and very rarely he actually evolves them. The only time he evolves quite a lot of his Pokemon was actually in Gen 4, or maybe Gen 6. I will admit that Ash's Oshawott's got some decent attacks, like Razor Shell and Hydro Pump. Aqua-Jet's okay too, but Tackle? Really, Ash? Tackle? You could have taught it Ice Beam. Or you could have even evolved it into a Dewott and then into a Samurott and have it learn Mega Horn or X-Scissor. Or maybe you even teach it some greater attacks. I do not understand why Ash doesn't evolve pretty much any of his Pokemon, and I just wish that Oshawott actually evolved. Next up, we actually have another Pokemon that Ash hasn't evolved, and it's also fairly new. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's his Rowlet. Now, I do quite like the Rowlet line. Like, I would definitely appreciate them a lot more if Decidueye didn't suck. Ash's Rowlet actually somehow got into a group of wild Piggypeck and Trumbeak somehow. Not sure how that happened, but anime logic. And somehow it found Ash and they hit off and Ash decided to capture it. But I haven't seen too many wins with this Rowlet because, like, I'm pretty sure he only managed to defeat his Crabrawler from Harla's team, but I think he also managed to beat a couple Pokemon off of Olivia's team, but still, I'm pretty sure there are definitely a lot stronger Pokemon on his squad, but I do really like Rowlet. Definitely think it would be a lot better if its evolutionary forms were stronger, not only in the Pokemon anime, but in the Pokemon games as well. Next up, we have Leavanny, another crappy Gen 5 Pokemon. If you haven't guessed by now, I hate Gen 5. Worst anime, worst Pokemon games, decent story, but still crap. And one of those crappy entries is definitely Swaddle and into Leavanny. Now, I did use a Leavanny in my original playthrough of Black and White, but probably one of the worst decisions I actually made. Now, I don't believe that Ash's Leavanny actually participated in very many battles, but when they did, most of the time it would usually lose. Like, I'm pretty sure that the most recent win that I know of is probably when he took down the Bug-type GM's Whirlipede, and then he took down a Coughing with it somehow, but, you know, logic. It's just... And most of the time, it definitely does lose. Like, probably the most noticeable was probably when it got defeated by a Sork. You heard me, a fighting type Sork. I'm pretty sure it resists fighting attacks. But, you know, logic. Seriously, Leavanny is just a crappy Pokemon. Some of its attacks are okay. Like, I don't get why it has String Shot, but I know it got X-Scissor and Razor Leaf, but I don't get why Ash didn't teach it Leaf Blade. I mean, you know, it does get some decent attacks. Stupid Pokemon. Next up, we actually have a Pokemon that has been with quite a lot of different trainers. First it was with Ash, then with Dawn, and then with this professional ping pong player. If you don't know who I'm talking about Apom. Now, I put Apom like this low on the list because I haven't seen it in battle very much, because it decided it wanted to do Pokemon contests rather than battles. Now, when Ash actually first caught Apom, it didn't really participate in very many battles. But when it got into the Sinnoh region, it participated in a couple battles, but half the time it would win, and half the time it would lose. And it didn't have that a great of a moveset. Like, I'm pretty sure it had like Focus Punch, Swift, Double Team, and it also had Scratch for a little while. But we only saw that once in the entire Pokemon anime. And then they decided either be Dawn's Pokemon, and then eventually it learned Double Hit, and then it evolved into an Ambipom. But it didn't participate in very many battles in when it was with Ash, so that's why it wasn't that high on the list. Next up, we have yet another crappy Gen 5 Pokemon, but I do really like its shiny. Like, it's okay, but I've seen better shinies. Like, if you don't know what I'm on about Boldore. But, oh my god, does Ash's Boldore suck. Now, I've got to say, Boldore has got to be one of the worst Pokemon Ash could actually have on his team, because it very rarely won, and it also didn't evolve into a Gigalith, which is pretty much where all of its power lies in. And I'm pretty sure that as they've gotten one important win, which was when it battled against Clay, and actually they managed to take 2 Horn Drills in a row somehow, and it actually managed to take it down with a Rock Smash and Rock Blast. Ugh, oh my god. Like, still, I definitely think that Boldore could have been a lot better if Ash decided to evolve into a Gigalith. But, newsflash, he doesn't like to evolve Pokemon. Stupid. Next up, we actually have like one of my favourite Pokemon in the Gen 2 anime, but it's just so bad in battle. Like, if you haven't guessed by now, I'm talking about the cute little crocodile. Yeah, it's Totodile, but I still really love Totodile. Like, it's hard to say no to that face. Like, this little happy dance, but it's very rarely won a battle. Now, Totodile has definitely had its like a couple of wins, but it's had quite a lot of embarrassing losses. Like, it's lost to an Onix, which should be strong against, but it was covered in water-resistant wax. It then lost to a Miltank twice, but that was Whitney's Miltank. We know how OP Whitney's Miltank is. And it also lost to Harrison Sneasel, but it did get its own back by beating it in the rematch in the Silver Conference. But I definitely think Totodile could have been a lot better if it evolved into Feraligatr and got some better moves and a more OP appearance. Like, how could you not be afraid of Feraligatr? I know it's got its own like meme, like it's got a little booty, but still, I'm not a huge fan of that meme. It's weird. Next up, we have another Generation 1 Pokemon, but Ash had never actually gone back for it. It basically gave it to another trainer so he can make it stronger in the P1 Grand Prix. If you don't know who I'm on about, it's Primeape. If you didn't know Ash actually had a Primeape, then you probably haven't watched the Gen 1 Pokemon series all the way through. Yeah, he actually caught Arthur Primeape, which actually was originally a Mankey who stole his hat. Eventually, he did get his hat back, but he also got a disobedient Primeape in the process. Now, I can't remember if Primeape actually lost a Pokemon battle, but he did actually try to use it in the gym battle with Erica, but decided not to because it was very disobedient and he was afraid he was going to get a punch in the face. And eventually he did use it, but that was in the P1 Grand Prix. And he did win quite a lot of matches using his Primeape. But I'm not 100% sure if that counts because we don't know how many battles Primeape went through. And then eventually Ash decided to give it to this trainer called Anthony, and decided he said he was going to train him for a little while, but eventually a little while translated into forever. And we never saw Primeape again, and I definitely think that Primeape would have been a great asset to Ash's team. Okay, next up we actually have what I think is Ash's weakest Pokemon in Generation 4, because when it was still in its baby form, or first evolutionary form, it was actually stronger when it evolved into its middle and then final evolutionary stage. If you haven't figured out who I'm on about Ash's Torterra. I really love Torterra though, I love it, but Ash's Torterra? Oh my god, why did you make it lose all the time? When it was still a little Turtwig, it very rarely lost. It had so many wins under its belt, but when it evolved into Grottle, it just kept losing, and then eventually it evolved into a Torterra, and it never won a single Pokemon battle, unless Team Rocket counts, but, it's Team Rocket. I definitely think if there was one Pokemon that Ash had never evolved, which was a starter Pokemon, it had to be Turtwig, because it was OP as a Turtwig, and then it became weaker and weaker when it evolved into Grottle. It won a couple battles when it was a Grottle, but it still lost every Pokemon battle when it went into Torterra. And I definitely think that Ash should have just kept it as a Turtwig. If there's anybody else that agrees with me, let me know in the comment section below, because I definitely think that Ash should have kept it as a Turtwig. Okay, next up, we actually have a living pile of sludge. Literally, Ash caught a living pile of sludge. If you haven't figured out who I'm on about Muck. The Pokemon that keeps hugging Professor Oak and Ash when they least expect it. And I do not understand why Ash didn't put Muck on his team. It just decided to send it to Professor Oak's lab and decided to never use it in a battle, which I think makes 0 sense. Literally, I'm pretty sure it only has 1 win and 1 loss. The only time it ever won a Pokemon battle was actually up against a freaking Bellsprout. Yes, you heard me. A Bellsprout, who actually defeated Bulbasaur and Pikachu, and Muck decided to OHKO it with a Body Slam. And the one time it lost was actually when it went up against Gary's Blastoise, but come on, it's Gary's Blastoise. With a couple Hydro Pumps and some Rapid Spins, I think, and yeah, I just think it was wasted potential. Okay, next up, we actually have my least favourite Pokemon that Ash has actually owned. It's the Pokemon that's madly in love with him and actually wants to be in a weird relationship with him. It's his Bayleaf. Oh boy, do I hate Bayleaf. Now, I will admit that Bayleaf was probably his OP Pokemon in the Johto region. But I don't remember many times when it won. I only remember the times when it lost, even though like it's won the same amount of battles that it's lost at, which makes no sense. Like I'm pretty sure like it actually defeated Chuck's Poliwrath and his Machoke, but it has lost quite a lot of battles. I definitely think my favourite battle when Bayleaf actually won was probably when it took down Harrison's Houndoom with Vine Whipping its mouth closed so it couldn't use Flamethrower, and then Bozzy slamming it so it would just like die. But afterwards, Harrison brought out his Blaziken and one-shotted him with a fire attack. Which I'm not surprised because Bayleaf is an absolute pile of trash. I definitely think that Ash should have evolved his Cyndaquil, but it did evolve eventually, but I think it should have evolved earlier and then into a Typhlosion. I definitely think he should have evolved his Totodile into Feraligatr because then he would have had some real power on his team, and he probably actually might have won the entire Johto League. Okay, next entry on the list is actually a Pokemon that actually spent most of the time in its pre-evolution, and when it actually evolved, it didn't really show up much in the anime, but I still really like this Pokemon. It's Ash's Glalie. Most of the time when you saw Ash's Glalie was actually when it was still a Snorunt. But pretty much 99.9% of the time when you see Snorunt, Ash is trying to get it to learn Ice Beam properly. And it went through so many attempts to try to learn it, but it just failed. And it wasn't until this Pokemon coordinator called Robert actually gave a Snorunt some advice, and it took a couple of hits from Team Rocket and then evolved into Glalie to finally learn Ice Beam. But I definitely think that Glalie, it was quite a pretty powerful Pokemon and it was used in battle. Like, it took out a Charizard. Yes, you heard me. It took out a freaking Charizard. I mean, that's got to get some credit. Like, I definitely think that Glalie should have stayed on Ash's team, and I would like to see what would happen if Ash actually learned how to use a Mega Evolution with Glalie, and I actually think that would have been pretty sick. Okay, next up we actually have another Pokemon that Ash hatched from an egg, but unlike Noivern, it didn't evolve, which I think it should, and had a much better moveset. That is Ash's Scraggy. Now, I definitely think Scraggy would have been a lot better if it did evolve into Scrafty, because then it would have become very powerful, learnt better moves, and probably would have been a lot more useful in the Pokemon League and the Pokemon gyms in general. Scraggy was definitely used for comic relief quite a lot, but when it counted, it definitely was quite a bit of a powerhouse in a battle. But like I said, it only beat a Darumaka and a Vanillish. Still though, like it is quite a decent Pokemon, but I definitely think it would have won a lot more battles, and Ash probably would have kept it on his team if it had evolved into a Scrafty. But still, I definitely really like Scraggy. But I just think it should have evolved. Like, I'm pretty sure most of the Pokemon that Ash actually caught in Unova League should have evolved. Next up is the only starter Pokemon in Gen 5 that Ash owned that actually evolved. And that is his Pignite. I really, really like Pignite. Well, mainly Ash's Pignite. The design's not great, but it could have been worse. Like, it could have been a Delphox. And I definitely think that it was wasted potential that it didn't evolve into Emboar. When Ash actually found Pignite when it was still a Tepig, it was actually abandoned by its original trainer because he thought it was too weak. And eventually Ash caught it, trained it up, and it also got its own back by the trainer who abandoned it by kicking his arse. And that actually made me quite happy because I always like to see the Pokemon on that beating its original trainer that released it because they thought he was too weak. I find that sort of thing quite interesting, very funny, and I'm like, ha, you definitely deserve that. Now let's get back to Pignite. Pignite's got the title for Gen 5 Powerhouse. That's going to come up a bit later. And I definitely think that as it's got a pretty decent moveset. Like, it's got Brick Break, Flamethrower, Flame Charge, and Fire Pledge. But I definitely think that Ash could have taught it a few better attacks. Or at least could have evolved it into Ember and then teach it a lot better attacks. Like Wild Charge, Scald, Flare Blitz, and Head Smash or something like that. But I definitely really like Pignite. And I definitely think that it's definitely one of Ash's best Pokemon in the Unova League. Okay, the next 3 entries are actually regional birds. So I'm going to say similar things about them, but I definitely think that these are actually some pretty decent regional birds. The first one I'm going to talk about is probably the weakest, but I still think it's really cool, and that is Ash's Swellow. Now, when Swellow was still a Tailo, Ash very rarely used it. Like, it very rarely came out of its Pokeball. I'm pretty sure it had cobwebs. But it wasn't until the Pokeringer came to town, and Ash actually started using Tailo, mainly because it evolved into a Swellow. And I definitely think that Swellow is very useful to the team, but I think it would have evolved a lot sooner if Ash actually decided to use it more earlier on in the series. Like, I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure everybody would feel the same as me. Swellow has definitely racked up quite a lot of wins for Ash, but I can't really remember many wins it's had. Like, I think the most famous one is probably when it took down James and Jesse's Dustox in the Pokeringer, and probably when it took down Tyson's Hariyama and Donphan. But other than that, I don't think it's that useful to Ash, but I still really like Swellow, and I definitely think it should have evolved a lot earlier in the series, since I can evolve a Swellow in a matter of seconds. Next on the list, we actually have a regional bird that was actually used in almost all of Ash's gym battles throughout of the Kalos League. That is Talonflame. Talonflame is definitely cool, but I definitely think there's one regional bird that's a bit better than Talonflame, mainly because of moveset. If you haven't seen Talonflame's moveset, then you'll probably understand. I will admit that Talonflame is definitely one of my favourite regional birds, but I definitely think it could have been a lot better. I'm pretty sure its win percentage is like 44%, but I definitely think that Ash's Talonflame could have been a lot better if he actually trained it a bit more. I'm pretty sure its moveset is Flame Charge, Brave Bird, Steel Wing, and either Double Team or Razor Wind. That's a pretty bad moveset. I definitely think it should have been replace Flame Charge with Flamethrower or Flare Blitz. And Brave Bird's okay, and Steel Wing's cool, but Razor Wind? Really, Ash? Razor Wind? Ugh. Stupid boy. I could come up with lots of great movesets for a Pokemon. Ash's Talonflame could have take on many great opponents if he had a better moveset and if it was a higher level. Next up, we actually have a regional bird that's been through quite a lot of battles. Not a lot when it was first caught, but quite a lot afterwards. I'm talking about the only shiny Pokemon that Ash has ever captured, his Noctowl. Now, Noctowl's actually quite an interesting Pokemon in my own opinion. It's got a weird, nature or attitude or however you want to put it, but it's definitely got some pretty amazing wins under its belt, and it's got quite an amazing moveset, apart from Foresight. Noctowl may only win 60% of the time, according to this picture I found of the win percentage. But I definitely think that Ash's Noctowl is quite an interesting Pokemon. Its moveset's kind of cool. I believe it's got Sky Attack, Extra Sensory. That's all I know so far. But definitely I think it's a pretty cool Pokemon, but I don't understand why it's not a Psychic type. It knows so many great Psychic moves, like Confusion, Hypnosis, and Extra Sensory, and obviously Psychic, but it's a normal and flying type. Like, hello? Ugh. I definitely think that Noctowl is a great Pokemon, and I definitely like to see Ash use it a bit more in the Pokemon anime, and maybe even catch some more shinies. Okay, now we're getting to some real powerhouses, and this Pokemon is no exception. Even though it's still in its pre-evolve stage, and when it evolves into its final stage, it becomes one of the most OP Pokemon, not only in the anime or in the games, but in competitive too. I am talking about the god himself, Gibble. Okay, I think the god part might be a bit of a stretch, but I definitely think that Ash's Gibble is quite cool. Now, its moveset is absolute hot garbage, apart from, Dragon Pulse and Draco Meteor. Like, its other two movesets are Dig and Rock Smash. But I definitely think that Gibble has won quite its fair share of matches, even though it's very rarely been in a serious Pokemon battle, and the best Pokemon battle I've seen it in is probably when it defeated Conway's Shuckle and Dusknoir with very, very little effort. Like 99% of the time we see Gibble, it's trying to learn how to use Draco Meteor. And literally all the time as it tries to use Draco Meteor, it winds up hitting Piplup for some odd reason. I'd really like to know why it keeps hitting Piplup all the time, but, you know. I definitely think that Gibble's a very interesting Pokemon, a very individual Pokemon. Like, it's a bit... But I definitely think that Gibble is a very unique Pokemon. It's definitely great, and I don't understand why it only learnt Draco Meteor literally right at the very end of the series, and then it just got thrown into Oak's lab. But I still really like Gibble. I just really wish that Ash actually evolves it into at least Gabite, or at least into Garchomp. Then he might have actually had a chance against Tobias's team. Okay, next up is the Pokemon that Ash actually traded for, or Apom, and it was actually originally Don's Pokemon, even though Ash did try to capture it once, but failed. And I am talking about Ash's Weasel. Like I said, it originally belonged to Dawn, but Dawn realised that Weasel had a bit more love for battling rather than contests, so she decided to give it to Ash for Ash's Apom, who loved to compete in contests and knows about style and grace. Now, Weasel definitely takes his battling very seriously. I definitely think it's got some quite impressive wins under its belt. It beat its evolutionary form, which was Floatzel. It took out a Gengar. It's had lots of wins under its belt. My favourite battle I've seen Weasel in was probably when he actually went up against Lucario and drew with it, and its final attack was awesome. It was a fusion between a Water Pulse and him spinning while using Aqua Jet. That was got to be my favourite combination out of the entire Gen 4 anime, even though it rivals with the Ice Aqua Jet combo, which Dawn originally came up with, but Ash perfected. I definitely love Weasel. It's definitely one of his best Pokemon, probably one of his best water types. And I definitely think he was made the right choice by making a Pokemon trade. Okay, now we're getting into the top 20, which means you're going to see quite a lot of Power Packs Pokemon. And this next one is no exception. I am talking about the fighting and flying type Luchador, which is basically a rip-off of Nacho Libre, and that is Hawlucha. Now, I've got to say, out of all of Ash's Pokemon, Hawlucha is not like literally any of Ash's Pokemon. It's definitely got a quite a weird personality. It's got his own unique fighting style, and I actually quite like it. Its moveset's alright, but I've seen better. X-Scissor to cover its psychic weakness is clever, but it's got Karate Chop, Flying Press, and High Jump Kick. I would have replaced Karate Chop with Poison Jabs to cover its fairy weakness at least. and have high jump kick replaced with brick break and keep flying press. That would have been a much greater moveset in my own opinion. I still think that Hawlucha is a great Pokemon, but I don't understand how it could lose to a Slacking of all Pokemon. Like, I know its moveset's hot garbage, but it should be able to take out a Slacking with very, very little effort, since it's a fighting type with great speed and attack power. But on the other hand, it does have quite a lot of impressive wins under its belt. Like, it took down Karina's Meanfu, it took Urkat out Valerie's Spritzy, which I think is quite cool, but it did have a little bit of help from, Talonflame, Fletchinder, so there you go. But I definitely think that Hawlucha is a great Pokemon, and it also actually took out Alan's Weavile, which previously took out Noivern, but it's a Dragon type, so it doesn't really surprise me. And I definitely think that Hawlucha is a pretty unique Pokemon, and I actually think that other Pokemon should actually have this flying press in the future, even though I'm pretty sure that's never going to happen. Okay, next up we have one of the original Kanto starters, which he caught in the wild. This one was actually abandoned by its trainer or something like that, and actually started a little squad and started running trouble throughout a town. I'm obviously talking about Ash's Squirtle. Now, I definitely think Squirtle is quite a cool Pokemon. Like, I definitely really like it when he's wearing those little sunglasses of his, like when he was still in the Squirtle squad. And I don't understand why they actually I went back into the Squirtle squad when Officer Jenny asked, "Oh, Ash, can you please give us back your Squirtle?" I mean, come on! Like, Squirtle was a great Pokemon. Like, I definitely think if Ash actually kept it, it would have evolved into Wartortle by now, or at least into a Blastoise. Like, I definitely think that Ash's Squirtle is quite a cool Pokemon. Like, I can't remember too many wins. Like, I definitely know it knocked out some Drake's Onix, but come on, it's a rock type. And I definitely I don't understand how it could lose to a Butterfree when it only got hit by a sleep powder, which means it went to sleep. It didn't get knocked out. I mean, come on, Pokemon creators. But still, I definitely really like Squirtle, and I definitely think it would have been a lot more useful if it actually stayed with Ash and it had evolved into Wartortle and Blastoise. Next up, I'm going to talk about another one of Ash's Kanto starter Pokemon, which didn't evolve, but it did have the opportunity to evolve, but decided not to. And that is Ash's Bulbasaur. Now, when we first met Bulbasaur, it was actually like an ambassador for this hidden Pokemon village, and Ash actually really wanted to catch it, and eventually he did. But I definitely think it was wasted potential when it refused to evolve. Now, Bulbasaur's got some pretty impressive wins under its belt. Like, it beat Brandon and Dusclops and drew with his Solrock, and it also drew with his trainer's Meganium, and that was kind of cool. However, it lost to Drake's Electabuzz, which it had added a resistance to, but I guess it kind of makes sense because Electabuzz, at the time, didn't have the opportunity to evolve, and Bulbasaur did, and to be honest, like, the difference in level was just too great. To this day, I definitely think if Ash actually kept Bulbasaur, he wouldn't have had a Venusaur by now, but for some odd reason, the grass types, the Oak Slag, and the water types, yeah, they didn't get along, so he asked if Bulbasaur could stay forever at Oak's lab, so that way he can become the ambassador at Professor Oak's research lab. But I definitely think that was stupid, and they could have used a different Pokemon, like maybe like a Charizard or a Houndoom that didn't actually belong to Ash. But I definitely think that Bulbasaur is an incredible Pokemon, but wasted potential. Next up, we actually have another starter Pokemon, but it's new, and it recently evolved. I am talking about Ash's Toricact. Now, when we actually got first introduced to Litten, it was a thief. And it really liked to like trick people and with its cuteness so it could get some food. And it also wanted to share some of it with its Stoutland friend. And I definitely admire that. And eventually its Stoutland friend passed away because it was a bit old. Yeah, but I definitely really like Litten, and after Stoutland passed away, he decided to tag along with Ash, so that way he could eventually learn how to use Fire Fang, which was what Stoutland was trying to do. It wasn't until Ash actually had a Pokemon battle with the Master Royale, aka Professor Kukui, and his Incineroar, and when it actually evolved into Toricact, and it actually learnt Flame Charge as well, I think. I definitely think it's got great potential, but I really want it to evolve into Incineroar, because then I definitely think it will become an absolute powerhouse. I definitely would like to see what other Pokemon Ash is going to catch in his Alola team. And I'm definitely looking forward to see how far Toricact is going to progress. While we're on the topic of middle or stage fire type evolutions, the next entry on my list is Quill Arthur. And I definitely think Quill Arthur has got to be an absolute powerhouse after Ash evolved it into Quill Arthur just because of fate. Whilst in the Johto region, Ash came across a pretty late age back Cyndaquil, and after it went through some adventures with it, he decided to capture it. Mainly because Team Rocket's machine was about to blow up and Cyndaquil would be caught up in the blast, so Ash decided to throw its Pokeball and it wouldn't be caught up in the blast. And eventually, Cyndaquil decided to tag along with Ash, and it's got quite a lot of impressive wins under its belt. The main win that Cyndaquil's got under its belt is probably up against some impressive Pokemon, like Bugsy's Scyther, Morty's Ghastly. It also took out Whitney's in Nidorina, and it also took out its Clefairy by forfeit. And it also took out some pretty impressive Pokemon like Jasmine's Steelix, Bright Ice's Dugong, and put up a fair fight up against his Piloswine, but did end up losing. That doesn't really matter. It's just got so many wins under his belt, and when it evolves into Quill Arthur, it actually drew with Nat and Armaldo, but it did take a little bit of damage from Staraptor, but still, I definitely think Quill Arthur is an amazing Pokemon. I think it'd be even more amazing if we had seen it evolve into Typhlosion. But that's neither here nor there, and I definitely think Quill Arthur has got to be one of Ash's best Pokemon in his squad. Okay, next up, we actually have my friend one of my friends David's least favourite Pokemon, because he says, oh, it's one of those Pokemon that only Ash can get. And that is got to be his Lycanroc. Now, I really love his Lycanroc because I love Duskform Lycanroc specifically, but I definitely think it's so far his powerhouse for the Alola region. Here's some of the battles that Pokemon has won. A Wild Magmar, Olivia's Lycanroc, and most impressively, he swept through Nanu's team. And I think that is pretty impressive, if you ask me. He did go up against Gladion twice, but the first time Team Rocket interrupted, so they had to stop. And the second time it was up against Type Null, or how Gladion said Silvally, even though it didn't evolve. And Lycanroc did lose the second time, but I still think it's really cool. I don't quite understand why they actually decided that when Lycanroc's fur gets really dirty and untidy, it goes a bit berserk and loses control. But eventually, he does learn how to control his anger, despite his fur getting dirty, and I think that's quite cool. I definitely think Lycanroc has got to be a great Pokemon, and I'd really like to see how it would stack up in the Alola League when it comes up. Next entry is another comic relief Pokemon, but I definitely think that this has got to be one of the funniest Pokemon that I've ever come across. It's Ash's Corphish. Now, when they first met Corphish, it was actually a rogue Pokemon that wanted nothing but to eat and plow out everything that got in its way. And eventually they discover Corphish, catch it, and it's got to be one of Ash's strongest Pokemon. Now again, Corphish would have been a whole lot better if it evolved into a Crawdaunt. However, it's definitely a great Pokemon, very funny in the anime, and I definitely think it's got to be one of the strongest Pokemon, since it's taken down some pretty challenging adversaries. But again, would have been better as a Crawdaunt, just saying. Now here is some of like Corphish's main wins. He took out Flannery's Macargo and Torkoal, and he took out a couple of Wands Pokemon, and he also took out quite a few Pokemon in the Pokemon League. However, it also took out a freaking Arcanine, and I think that's pretty cool. Like, it did all of that in its little, like, pre-evolutionary form, which means it's got to be an absolute powerhouse. However, like I said, imagine how much of a powerhouse it would be if it evolved. However, I love Corphish regardless, and I'd actually love to make my own little competitive Crawdaunt once I get round to it. Okay, next up, we actually have, what, in my own opinion, the strongest Pokemon Ash has ever got from an egg, and has actually helped him quite a lot in multiple battles, and that is his Donphan. Now, Donphan is definitely a very interesting Pokemon in my own opinion. It's taken down quite a few Pokemon, like, when it was still a little Phanpy, it took out a Slugma, which was pretty impressive, and it's definitely a lot lower leveled other than that. And when it actually became a Donphan, it took out quite a few interesting Pokemon, like mainly a Pipe Queen and Lucy Survivor, which was quite cool. And it did hold its own up against her Milotic, but eventually it lost. I still think that Donphan is an interesting Pokemon. I really like it, but I wish it had done better in the Sinnoh League, because it did go up against Shuckle, but eventually Ash decided it wasn't a good matchup, so he switched out. And when he used it up against his Dusknoir, it just ended up knocking it out with just a few Shadow Punches. So I definitely think that Donphan has room to improve, but I still really like Donphan. Next up, in my own opinion, is got to be his strongest regional bird. And that is also my favourite regional bird. It's Staraptor. Now, I've got to say, Staraptor has got quite a lot of impressive wins under its belt. Like, if you don't believe me, go check out the entire Sinnoh region series from start to finish, and you will see what I mean. If you can't be asked to watch it, I'll just tell you right now. Like, it took out Gardenia's Cherubim. It took out 2 of Maylene's Pokemon with minimal effort. It also took out Candace's Medicham with very little effort. And it did pretty well in the Sinnoh League. And I definitely think it definitely deserves high praise. It's definitely one of Ash's go-to Pokemon. I really like it. And I definitely think it's one of his better regional birds. If I had to change one thing, it would be its moveset. Its moveset isn't that great. Sure, it's got Brave Bird in close combat. Aerial Ace is meh, but Quick Attack? Really, Ash? Quick Attack? If it were me, I would have gone with Fly, Brave Bird, Close Combat, or either Hyper Beam and Giga Impact. Like, that sounds like a much better moveset, but Ash doesn't understand what a good moveset is. Let's be honest. But still, I really like Ash's Staraptor, but I definitely think there's room to improve. Like, in every Pokemon, there's always room to improve. The next Pokemon on this list is the one that didn't quite make it into the top 10 because it's spot 11. But I still really like this Pokemon, and it's definitely a very power-packed Pokemon. And that's Kingler. Now, let me write it down. Kingler was actually Ash's Krabby, who he just caught just to prove that he can capture a Pokemon without anybody's help whatsoever. And then it just stayed at Oak's lab. And when he called upon Krabby, it's when Ash was actually at the Pokemon League. And he was up against a very experienced Pokemon trainer. He took down an Exeggutor, which Krabby had a very bad matchup against. But once it took it down, he instantly levels up, becomes a Kingler, and sweeps his entire team, which was a Seadra and a Golbat. Those wins definitely proves how OP this Kingler is. But after that, Kingler wasn't really that used. Like, he did call upon it when he was in this, like, a water competition, like, water-type only competition, and in the Johto region, but that was literally the only time he called upon it in a Pokemon battle. Like, he did call upon this in the Johto League, but it got badly damaged from catching, like, either Voltorb or Electrode, something like that. And that was literally the last time we ever saw Ash's Kingler, and that's why I didn't put it in the top 10, but I still really like Kingler. Okay, ladies and gents, let's get into the top 10. At number 10, we have Heracross. Now, Heracross has got to be one of the OP Pokemon on Ash's squad, and I love its design, its power, and I definitely think it's got to be one of the strongest Pokemon in Ash's squad. Like, this just proves, like, it has never actually been in a single gym battle in the Johto League when he caught it, but that proves how powerful that Heracross is, just from staying at Oak's Lab all day. And pretty much it stayed there throughout the entire Johto series. Like, I did get engaged in a couple battles, but the majority of the time, it was at Oak's Lab. But that doesn't mean it's not an absolute badass. Like, it took down Gary's frickin' Magmar, which was pretty sick. It lost to a Venusaur when Ash called upon this during the Battle Frontier. And it also took out Nando's Cricketune in the Sinnoh League. But it also lost to Tobias's Darkrai. But it did put up a fair fight, but it still lost. It did lose to a super effective Dream Eater, and it's got Darkrai does have a very high special attack. And Heracross's physical defense and special defense aren't great, but I still really like Heracross. Like, I definitely think that Heracross is definitely one of Ash's best Pokemon, and I'd actually like to see more of Heracross if he actually uses it in the Alola League. At number 9, we have Gliscor. Now, Gliscor has got to be one of the most OP Pokemons I have ever seen in my life. Even though it started off as like one of the weakest Pokemon on Ash's squad, after it evolved, that was a completely different story. Like, it learned some great attacks, like Exit stayed with it throughout Gligar and Gliscor, but it eventually learns Fire Fang, Giga Impact, and Stone Edge, and that is a pretty impressive moveset. But it could have learnt at least Earthquake. It didn't know a single stab attack. Like what the hell? On top of that, it didn't win that many. It didn't win that many gym battles. Like, it only won one, and that was up against Byron's Bastiodon, and he also won against a Drapion in the Pokemon League, which was Paul's Drapion. But I definitely think that Drapion should have stayed with Ash through like Univers and Carlos at least, because then he might have actually stood a chance of winning the entire Pokemon League. But there you go. But I still definitely think that Gliscor is an OP Pokemon. At number 8, we have Ash's Hoenn ace in the hole, and that is his Sceptile. Now, I did go admit Sceptile's kind of cool. Like, there he is. Sceptile is definitely a pretty sick Pokemon, and I definitely think Ash could have done a lot more with it if it actually learned Bullet Seed a little bit earlier on. Throughout its entire life, like, a Treat Eco, when it started off, it was quite stubborn, and when it evolved, it became even more stubborn. But eventually it learned how to love, because it fell in love with Meganium, and once it got rejected and tortured by Team Rocket, it gave it the motivation to evolve into a Sceptile. But once it evolved, it couldn't use any of its attacks. Like, literally, like, what? But I definitely think that Sceptile is an amazing Pokemon, and I definitely really like all of the impressive wins that it gave Ash. Most of Sceptile's victories actually came from like regular trainer battles, not so much for gym battles. But the best win it's probably had in a gym battle was probably up against an Altaria, which quad resists any grass attacks. And it actually knocked out a Walrein in the Pokemon League, which actually is an even matchup against each other. And I definitely think like it's got some cool wins too. Like it actually defeated a Shiftry and it also knocked out as a Claydol when it was battling in the Battle Frontier. And I think the best win it's got was up against Darkrai in the Sinnoh League, when it one-shotted it with a Leaf Blade attack. That's got to be the peak of Ash's moment, and I love that Sceptile. At number 7, we finally have the second candidate of the strongest ace in the hole for the Unova League, which was tied with Pignite, and that's Crocodile. Now, Crocodile, I definitely think, is quite a cool Pokemon. It started off as a Sandile that didn't really like Ash. It only wanted to battle Pikachu. And eventually evolved into Crocorock and got sent flying with an Iron Tail or something like that. And eventually it grew to like Ash, and actually it decided to travel with Ash. And after a while, it didn't actually win in the gym battle against Skylar, but it did win in like a battle against Bryson's Beartick, which was quite cool. And it also won it up against Iris's Dragonite, which was pretty sick, if you ask me. Once it evolved into Crocodile and actually beat a Dragonite, we move on to the Unova League, where it actually defeated not only a Lipard, but a Sork, which it actually is weak against. And it already defeated a Leavanny and used Bulk Up quite a few times to raise not only its attack, but defences as well. And it also had taken quite a bit of damage from Lipard too. And it one-shotted that Sork with an Aerial Ace, which was not even stab, and it knocked out Sork in one hit. But to be fair, it did take a little bit of damage from Leavanny since its Swarm ability activated. However, it's still a really cool moment, and I really love that Crocodile. I definitely would have liked to see what it would have been like if it was used in the Carlos League, but I hope that Ash brings it back for the Alola League. At number 6, we actually have another Kanto Pokemon, but in my own opinion, it's got to be one of the strongest Kanto Pokemon, and I really like using this Pokemon in a Pokemon playthrough, and that is Ash's Snorlax. Now, when the Snorlax was first introduced, it was just that thief that was trying to eat all the grapefruits off the Grapefruit Islands, but I definitely think it was pretty cool. When it was first introduced, it didn't really battle that much. Like, it battled occasionally, but the main ways it actually got battled was during the Johto series, when it actually, first off, it went into this sumo competition, and Ash actually won. And it also won it up against Kingler pretty easily. And then it actually got us involved in the Johto League, where it took out a couple of Gary's Pokemon, and I believe it took out a couple of Harrison's Pokemon as well. And it also did fairly well in the Battle Frontier, when they actually knocked out not only a Hariyama, but a Medicham, which hadn't even gone in battle yet. That has got to be a pretty sick Pokemon, and actually, believe it or not, it knows more than 4 moves. Like, I swear that thing actually has 6 moves. Like, I don't know, like, still, I love Snorlax, and I really wish I had that Snorlax, because then I'd probably destroy everybody. At number 5, we have Goodra. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. If you've seen the poster for Ash's Pokemon win percentage, you're probably going to be like, why isn't Goodra a number 1? It got 100%, it won every single battle. No, that's absolute BS. Because when it actually went into the Pokemon League, it actually didn't win a single Pokemon battle. It only drew. Like, it got 1 draw and 1 loss, I think. Yeah, it drew with Sawyer's Slurpuff, and it got defeated by Alan's Bishop, I think, something like that. And I definitely think that Goodra was wasted potential, and I think it should have been a lot stronger. Now, to start off, when it was a little Goomy, it was in between weak and strong, and when it evolved into Sliggoo, it got a lot more confidence and became a bit of a powerhouse. But when it evolved into Goodra, oh my god, I just loved that thing. Like, it was so OP. Like, its moveset was a bit questionable. Like, Dragon Pulse, Rain Dance, Bide, and Ice Beam. I mean, really? Like, I don't really get Bides. Like, Rain Dance is to help with the hydration ability. Dragon Pulse for stab. But Ice Beam? Really? You could have had Flamethrower or Sludge Bomb or something that helps against its weaknesses. But no, you decided to go with Ice Beam to help with Dragon weaknesses. But you forgot that you already have Dragon Pulse, which is stab. I mean, come on, Ash! At number 4, we have Infernape. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you put this at number 1? Infernape's your favourite Pokemon. Yes, it is. But I'm talking about Ash's strongest Pokemon overall. Not my favourite Pokemon that Ash has owned. Although, that's not a bad idea for another video. I'll probably do that the next time. Still, there are 3 other entries that I think is stronger than Ash's Infernape, but I'm not saying that Infernape is not a powerhouse, because it is. Like, I don't know anybody that thinks that Infernape is incredibly weak. Like, Infernape is so powerful. Like, it took out so many amazing Pokemon. Like, it wasn't that great when they first started off, like, with training with Ash, because I think it was just trying to get used to Ash. Like, it's only like been a little short while when it's been with Ash and separated from Paul, and it didn't win the battle up against Maylene. But its first gym win with Ash was actually up against it was up against Byron's Bronzor. And then it took out its Steelix as well, and then lost to Bastiodon. And when it went into the next gym, it took out not only Snover, but some Candace's Ace in the Hole, Abomasnow. And then during the last gym, not only did he take out Jolteon, but he also took out Luxray, and that was the gym battle when he finally learnt how to control Blaze. And when we get to the Pokemon League, he pretty much destroys half of Paul's team. Like, he took down his Aggron, he took down his Ninjask, and he took down his Electivire. And I think that is pretty cool. And he also took out some Electivire with Blaze alone, and even though it was badly poisoned. Like, I think that's so cool. Like, I definitely think that it's got to be like Ash's Ace in the Hole and Sinnoh, and I would have loved to see what Ash could have done with Infernape if he had used it in other Pokemon leagues. But we may see him in the Alola League, fingers crossed, but I still think that things would have gone a lot smoother in the other Pokemon leagues if Infernape was with him. At number 3, we have Charizard. Now, I definitely think that Charizard has got to be one of the OP of OP Pokemons when it comes to Ash's squad. I mean, as soon as you think of Ash, you think of Charizard or Pikachu. But to me, I always think of Charizard because I think that Charizard has got a few more wins under its belt. Not only has it taken down Pokemon that are stronger than him, and taken Pokemon down with a type advantage, this thing has taken down a freaking Articuno, which I know is stronger against, but it's still a legendary Pokemon. I mean, come on! Like, this thing is the stuff of nightmares, and it's also, taken down Iris's Dragonite with a Dragon Tail, even though it didn't properly make it faint, but it still went quite toe-to-toe with Iris's Dragonite. Like, I love Charizard. Like, it's such an OP Pokemon. And again, I wish I could see it more in like other Pokemon leagues. But at least its training is done and it's at Oak's lab. And I love Charizard. Okay, there's only 2 entries left. And I bet you think that I'm going to probably put Pikachu at number 1. Actually, it's at number 2. I do really like Pikachu, but I definitely think there's one Pokemon in particular that's even more OP than Pikachu himself. But that doesn't mean that Pikachu is a slacker, because it has taken down so many Pokemon for Ash. It's Ash's starter Pokemon, and it's taken so many great Pokemon down that are not only stronger than himself, but have a type advantage up against Pikachu. For example, like it's taken down Brock's Onix, it's taken down Surge's Raichu, it's taken down a Rhydon somehow, Blaine's Rhydon, and it also managed to one-shot all of Giovanni's Pokemon used by Team Rocket while he was trying to earn the Earth Badge. And it also has got a lot more impressive wins under its belt. It's taken down a Ditto while else in the Orange Islands. It's also taken down an Alakazam and a Marowak. It's taken down a Dragonite, but that was with help. It's taken down so many OP Pokemon. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like, it even took down a Geodude and a Nosepass while in the Hoenn League. Not the Hoenn League, the first Gym Battle, sorry. It's taken down just so many amazing Pokemon, especially when it's taken down a Regice and tied with Latios. But with impressive wins, there are also some weird losses. In my own opinion, the most famous loss for Ash's Pikachu is up against a level 5 Snivy, and that was Trip Snivy. Like, there are loads of conspiracy theories about some Snivy and like Pikachu's levels being reset each time it visits a new generation, each new region, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. But I still think that Ash's Pikachu is a really OP Pokemon, and I'm so glad that actually chose Ash to have Pikachu instead of Clefairy, because imagine if Ash actually had Clefairy instead of Pikachu. That would have been the stuff of nightmares. If you haven't figured out number 1 yet, it's Ash is ace in the hole in the Kalos region, has a great ace hidden ability, a great secondary form, and has a great plushie form. If you haven't figured out yet, I'm talking about Greninja. I mean, come on. It's Ash's version of a Mega Evolution. Like, how could I not place it here? Now, I gotta admit, it hasn't taken down, like, legendaries like other Pokemon, but it's the only Pokemon of Ash's that can actually change its form and become even stronger. Like, I just love it! When it was a Froakie, it actually had, like, many different trainers, and eventually, it actually chose to be with Ash, because he thought that Ash could draw out his, hidden powers. And I definitely think that Froakie was meant to be with Ash. It's just such a cool Pokemon. Like, it's taken down so many OP Pokemon. Those are some of the Pokemon that Greninja's taken down. We've got Grant's Onix. We've got Ramos's Weepinbell and Go-Goat. We've got Olympia's Meowstic. And we've also got Wolfric X Mega Abomasnow, which Greninja has a type disadvantage against. And it also has taken down Trico when it evolved into Grovyle, and when it became a Sceptile too. And when it became a Mega Sceptile, he still took it down, even though Sceptile did get its own back. But I still think that when it became a Mega Sceptile, like, Greninja became OP ASL when it fully controlled its Ash Greninja form. I guarantee you, if Alan hadn't been at the Kalos League, Ash would have won without batting an eyelash. Like, I would actually like to see Ash versus Sawyer in the Kalos League finals. and then Ash actually winning, because then everyone can be all said and done, and then we could stop watching Pokemon. But now we've got a really crappy version of Pokemon of the Sun and Moon series. Like, I don't know anybody who likes the Sun and Moon series anymore. Like, I definitely think they went downhill with the Sun and Moon series, but I definitely think they should have actually let Ash win in the Kalos League, but there you go. But if Alon wasn't there, Greninja and Ash would have cleaned up in the Kalos League, and Ash would have became the Kalos League champion. And that's why Greninja is at number 1. And there you have it, guys. I hope you liked this video as much as I did. Like, I love this video because I put lots of time and effort into this video. That's why I didn't upload yesterday. So, it would mean a lot to me if you give this video a big, massive thumbs up. Like I said just now, be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel to be Inferno today. Okay, that's all from me, so until the next time, this is Infernape, signing off. Bye!